Studying the Ancient Israelites is a book that kind of talks about the methodology behind how scholars come up with their conclusions about what happened many thousands of years ago. It's quite a readable book. You've read a chapter of this already on archaeology. I found this invaluable to kind of give me the background of the methods that these people use. Remembering one thing that you have to do when you're evaluating your resources is understand the methods behind how they came to the conclusions. This book will give you an insight into how scholars actually do that, so you can better make those decisions. This level book is about on the sort of teaching sort of level, teacher sort of level, realizing that it is sort of mainstream as far as theological perspective because of the author, but again, I found it very invaluable. The Social World of the Ancient Israelites is again by the same author, but this is where you will probably notice that the author strays a bit more into mildly critical. It is an interesting understanding of anthropology and the study of the Bible. It gives you a really good insight into the social customs of the time. It's quite a technical piece, and you will notice that as you're going through, there will probably be some things that you will strongly disagree with because of the assumptions that the writer is making. Again, when you have to challenge something you're reading, often it makes you appreciate and understand your own position a lot better. For me, this is a book I have gained quite a bit of insight from, but it wouldn't be one of my first books to go to for somebody just entering in the field, because it is mainstream, bordering on the mildly critical, and you have to understand some of the assumptions that people are coming to. The Bible, amongst other myths, is a highly, highly recommended book. This is from a conservative evangelical theological perspective, and it's probably aimed at sort of the teacher level. It's a highly readable book, but one of the things I particularly appreciate is its comparison between the Bible and the mythologies of the other nations around Israel, and really contrasting the two. One of the things that you will constantly come across while you are studying biblical backgrounds is when people compare what's written in the Bible with what the nations around Israel were saying, and some of the records that we have. You will hear things like references to the Epic of Gilgamesh and the relationship to the creation story. Often these critical scholars paint a fairly convincing picture, and it makes you really question sort of your understanding of the scripture. This author, Oswald, who looks and compares at the Bible and these other myths, does a really good job of showing both their similarities and their fundamental differences. Again, this would be a book that if you wanted to seriously get into the study of biblical backgrounds, this is a must-read, and actually I would rate this as one of the first books that you should probably go to. IVP have brought out a series of dictionaries based on different sections of the Old and New Testament. This is sort of an expansion on the one-volume Bible dictionary that I mentioned earlier on. These are highly detailed. They are designed for the teacher and towards academic. They are an invaluable resource and really give you the nitty-gritty details of the background. I'd suggest if you have an opportunity to borrow somebody's and have a look at it, it's a wonderful resource to use. It's really designed for those people that are seriously into teaching or those that are doing sort of academic research. If you're serious about going further with biblical backgrounds, one of the things I would highly recommend you do is to actually study up on world history. Remember, the events that are recorded in the Bible do not happen in a vacuum. They happen in a global context of what was happening at the time. So the large trends throughout history have an impact on what was happening with the nation of Israel. Being able to place the biblical account in the wider historical context is invaluable to understanding the culture, the history, and then, as a result, understanding the theological implications of what's written. Here's a selection of books that I've personally read. There are more that I've read, but you will find these really, really valuable. One thing to note is that when you're looking at world history, you will often have people that come from a more critical standpoint. You may even be reading secular writers who come from a totally different perspective than, say, somebody who is writing from the Christian community. On a more popular personal level, I really appreciated some of the works of Philip Yancey in some of the background material that he has put together. The Jesus I Never Knew and the Bible That Jesus Read. While these works are very much on a popular personal level, they provide an invaluable resource in communicating the understandings of the biblical background that you can get. Remember, one of the big focuses of ACM is not only to be able to learn yourself and personally grow, but to be able to share that with other people. The Philip Yancey's books are a wonderful resource to, I guess, show you ways to communicate that so that other people can understand clearly and they can benefit from the time of study that you've put in. Again, Charles Swindoll's character profiles and books that he has written is a wonderful way of, I guess, getting a feel for what it would have been like to live back in those times. Charles Swindoll is an amazing storyteller and gets to the heart and the feeling and the sensory aspect of studying biblical backgrounds. Remember, part of the whole goal of understanding the background is to be able to recreate that for yourself. So you, in a sense, relive the story. He has a wonderful style. I would highly recommend him, again, to give that general sense and feel, but also to help you to be able to communicate that to other people. While this book, The Art of Preaching Old Testament Narrative, is technically a preaching book, it does have an amazing wealth of insights into how to approach narrative text in the Bible. One of the things that you have to realize is that a giant section of the Old Testament is actually stories. It's written in narrative form. And today, as coming from a Western culture, we don't do stories that well. And we definitely don't learn by stories as our main form of sort of instructional teaching. Understanding the art of storytelling and how it actually applies to the Bible gives you clues about what to look for as you are studying the biblical text itself. Once you're aware of these clues, you start noticing the things that are important, and you start picking up on how to study the Bible for yourself, but then also what to go to in the secondary resources to find out what you need to know. So to sum up, secondary resources are a great thing to have when you are studying the Bible, but they don't replace studying the Bible itself. Whenever you are choosing secondary resources to work with, you need to make sure that you understand the audience that the resource was intended for, and also the theological perspective that it comes from. Remember, the resources people find valuable will be different depending on who they are and what purpose they want out of the resource.